one might call righteous. He seemed to be a person who was not in a hurry. So I was completely unguarded and absent-mindedly making my statement. Suddenly I started coughing, and as I took out a handkerchief from my sleeve and saw the blood, a despicable thought crossed my mind that this cough might be of some use. I added 2 or so exaggerated fake coughs, covering my mouth with the handkerchief, and glanced at the prosecutor's face at that moment. "Is it true?" It was a quiet smile. A cold sweat broke out all at once. No, even now when I recall it, my body trembles. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that it was worse than when that foolish Takichi in middle school poked me in the back, saying waza, waza, and pushed me into hell. These 2 incidents are the records of my great failures in acting in my life. Sometimes I even think that it would have been better to be sentenced to 10 years in prison than to face the quiet contempt of that prosecutor. I was granted a suspension of indictment. However, I was not happy at all and sat on a bench in the waiting room of the prosecutor's office, feeling utterly miserable, waiting for Harami, my guarantor, to come. From the high window behind me, I could see the sunset sky, and seagulls were flying in a shape resembling the character for woman. I'm sorry, but it seems that there is no specific text provided for translation. If you could provide the classical text that needs translation, I will translate it into modern language. The third memoir. Chapter 1. Takichi's predictions were half correct. The rather unflattering prophecy that I would be adored came true, but the blessing that I would become a great artist did not. I ended up as nothing more than an obscure and mediocre cartoonist for low-quality magazines, expelled from high school due to an incident in Kamakura. I lived in a 3-tatami room on the 2nd floor of Hirami's house. A small sum of money was sent from my hometown each month, but it seemed to be sent secretly to Hirami rather than directly to me. Apparently, my brothers back home were sending it without our father's knowledge. Beyond that, all ties with my hometown were completely severed. Hirame was always in a foul mood, never smiling even when I forced a smile. And his drastic change in demeanor was so appalling, or rather comical, that it seemed as if a person could change as easily as flipping a hand. Do not go out. Whatever you do, do not leave. I kept telling myself that. Hiram seemed to suspect that I might commit suicide, fearing that I might once again plunge into the sea after a woman, and thus strictly forbade me from going out. However, unable to drink or smoke, and spending my days idly in the 3-tatami room on the 2nd floor, buried under a kotatsu and reading old magazines, I had lost even the will to take my own life. Hirami's house was near the Okubo Medical School, with a sign proudly proclaiming it as the Seryuen Antique Shop. However, it was just one of 2 units in a building, with a narrow storefront and a dusty interior filled with random junk. Hirami did not actually make a living from the junk in the shop. Rather, he earned money by transferring ownership of so-called treasures from one gentleman to another. He was rarely at the shop, usually leaving with a serious expression early in the morning, leaving a 17 or 18-year-old boy to watch over the place. This boy, when not playing catch with the neighborhood children, seemed to regard me as a fool or lunatic, often lecturing me with adult-like advice. Being unable to argue with others, I listened with a weary or impressed expression and complied. This boy was Shibuta's illegitimate child, but due to some circumstances, Shibuta did not acknowledge him as his son, and his perpetual bachelorhood seemed to be related to this. I vaguely recall hearing rumors about this from my family, but I have little interest in others' affairs and know nothing in depth. However, the boy's eyes strangely reminded me of fish eyes, so perhaps he truly was Hiram's illegitimate child. If so, they were indeed a lonely pair. Late at night, unbeknownst to me on the 2nd floor, they would sometimes order soba and eat in silence. In Hirami's house, meals were always prepared by the boy. He would serve my meals separately on a tray and bring them up to me on the 2nd floor 3 times a day. Hirami and the boy would eat together in the damp 4.5 tatami room below, and making clattering sounds with dishes and bowls as they busily ate. One evening at the end of March, Hiram, perhaps due to an unexpected windfall or some other scheme, invited me to a rare dinner where a sake bottle was prepared, even if both of these guesses were correct. There were likely several other subtle reasons beyond my speculation. He served tuna sashimi instead of hirami, praised its deliciousness, and even offered me a little sake, despite my dazed state. "What on earth do you plan to do from now on?" Without answering, I picked up a piece of dried sardine from the plate on the table and gazed into the silvery eyes of the little fish. A faint intoxication began to take hold, and I felt a nostalgic longing for the days of carefree wandering, even feeling a sense of nostalgia for Hariki. I yearned deeply for freedom, and suddenly felt a slight urge to cry. Since coming to this house, I found no motivation even to play the clown, merely passing my days under the contempt of Hiram and the young apprentice. Hirami, too, seemed to avoid engaging in long conversations with me, and I had no inclination to chase after Hirami to plead my case. I had almost entirely resigned myself to being the foolish-looking lodger. A suspended indictment doesn't count as a criminal record, it seems. So, depending on your attitude, you can rehabilitate yourself. If you repent and seriously consult with me, I will consider it. In Hiram's manner of speaking, no, in the way everyone in the world speaks. There is this kind of convoluted, somewhat vague and evasive subtlety. The almost meaningless level of caution and the countless minute maneuvers always left me bewildered. Leading me to adopt a defeated attitude of jokingly brushing things off or nodding silently and leaving everything to others. At that time, Hiram could have simply reported to me in the following straightforward manner, which I learned later. Hiram's unnecessary cautiousness, or rather, the incomprehensible vanity and appearances of people in the world, left me with an indescribable feeling of gloom. Hiram should have just said this at that time. Whether it's a national or private institution, just enroll in some school starting in April. Once you're in school, your living expenses will be sent more adequately from your hometown. It was much later that I realized this was indeed the case, and I would have followed those instructions. However, because Hirami spoke so cautiously and indirectly, the conversation became strangely tangled, and my way of life changed completely. If you're not willing to seriously consult with me, then there's nothing I can do. What kind of consultation is it? I truly couldn't think of anything. Isn't it something that's in your heart? For example, what do you plan to do with your life from now on? Should I work? No, how do you truly feel? But even if I say I'm going to school, that requires money. But the issue isn't money, it's your feelings. Even though the money was supposed to be sent from the government, why didn't I say a word about it? If I had just mentioned that, I could have made up my mind. But I was simply at a loss. What do you think? Do you have any hopes for the future? Truly, those who are cared for cannot comprehend the challenges of being a caregiver. I'm sorry. That is indeed a concerning matter. Since I've decided to look after you, I don't want you to approach this with a half-hearted attitude. I want you to show a firm resolve to walk the path of rehabilitation. For example, if you seriously come to me with your future plans and seek my advice, I am willing to respond to that consultation. Of course, since it's the assistance of someone as poor as myself, if you expect the same luxuries as before, you will be disappointed. However, if you have a solid mindset and clearly establish your future plans, and consult with me, I intend to help you with your rehabilitation, even if it's little by little. Do you understand my feelings? In the first place, what do you intend to do from now on? If I couldn't live on the second floor here, I would work and... Are you seriously saying that? In today's world, even if you graduate from the Imperial University. No, I don't intend to become a salaryman. Then what do you mean? I am a painter. I gathered the courage to say it. What? I cannot forget the sly shadow of the flounder's face, which laughed with its neck drawn in at that time. It resembled a shadow of contempt, yet was somehow different, as if the world were likened to the sea, such a strange shadow drifted in its depths, revealing a glimpse into the depths of adult life. That's not going to work. You're not thinking clearly at all. Think about it. Spend the whole night seriously considering it, I was told. And I hurriedly went upstairs, but even as I lay down, no particular thoughts came to mind. Then, as dawn broke, I fled from the flounder's house. I will definitely return by evening. I'm going to visit a friend to discuss my future plans, so please don't worry. Truly. I wrote this in large letters with a pencil on a note, then added the address and name of Horiguchi Masao, who lived in Asakusa, and quietly left the flounder's house. It wasn't out of resentment for being lectured by the flounder that I ran away. In truth, as the flounder said, I was a man without a firm resolve, with no idea of my future plans, and I felt guilty about continuing to rely on the flounder. If, by any chance, I were to muster the courage to set a goal, the thought of having to ask the impoverished flounder for financial support for my new start was so distressing that I couldn't bear it. However, I didn't leave the flounder's house with the genuine intention of consulting someone like Horiguchi about my future plans. It was merely to reassure the flounder, even for a moment, though there was a slight detective novel-like strategy of wanting to escape as far as possible during that time. and I must admit there was a trace of that feeling. But more than that, I was afraid of suddenly shocking the flounder and causing him confusion, which might be a more accurate explanation. Even though it was bound to be found out, I was afraid to say it outright, and always felt compelled to embellish things, which is one of my sad habits. Though it resembles the character people call a liar, I have rarely done so for personal gain, but rather from a fear of the atmosphere changing and becoming dull, which was suffocatingly terrifying. Even knowing it would be to my disadvantage later, my so-called desperate service, even if distorted, weak, or foolish, often led me to add a word of embellishment. However, this habit was also greatly exploited by the so-called honest people of the world. At that moment, I simply wrote down Horiguchi's address and name on the edge of the note as it surfaced from the depths of my memory. After leaving the flounder's house, I walked to Shinjuku and sold the books I had, yet I was still at a loss. Though I was amiable to everyone, I had never truly experienced friendship, and aside from playmates like Horiguchi, all interactions were nothing but painful. In my desperate attempts to ease that pain, I would clown around, but ended up exhausted. And when I saw familiar faces or similar ones in the city, I would be startled and struck by a momentary, unpleasant shudder that was almost dizzying. While I understood being liked by others, I seemed to lack the ability to love others. Moreover, I have serious doubts about whether people in the world truly possess the ability to love. Someone like me could never have a so-called best friend, and on top of that, I lacked even the ability to visit. The gates of other people's homes were, to me, more ominous than the gates of hell in the Divine Comedy, and I genuinely sensed the presence of a terrifying dragon-like beast lurking. Beyond those gates, I have no acquaintances. I cannot visit anyone. Horiguchi. It was as if a joke had become reality. Just as I had written in the note, I decided to visit Horiguchi in Asakusa. Until then, I had never once visited Horiguchi's home of my own accord, usually summoning him with a telegram. But now, even the cost of a telegram was uncertain, and due to my further decline, I feared that merely sending a telegram might not bring Horiguchi to me. Thus, I resolved to undertake the visit, which I was most averse to, and with a sigh boarded the streetcar. When I realized that Horiguchi was my only lifeline in this world, I was seized by a chilling sense of dread. Horiki was at home. In a 2-story house at the end of a grimy alley, Horiki occupied a single 6-tatami room on the 2nd floor. Below, his elderly parents and 3 young craftsmen were busy sewing and hammering the straps of Geta sandals. That day, Horiki revealed a new facet of his urban persona to me. It was what one might call a shrewd character, a cold and cunning egoism that astonished me. A country bumpkin. He was not a man who simply drifted along like I did. I'm really astonished at you. Did you get permission from your father? Not yet? I couldn't admit that I had run away. As usual, I evaded the question. Even though I was sure Horiki would soon notice, I continued to deceive him. It'll work out somehow. Hey, this isn't a laughing matter. I'm warning you, stop doing foolish things while you can. I have things to do today. I've been incredibly busy lately. What kind of things? Hey, don't cut the thread of the cushion. As we talked, I was unconsciously fiddling with one of the threads or cords, like tassels, at the corners of the cushion I was sitting on, pulling it taut with my fingertips. Horiki, as if he couldn't bear to lose even a single thread from his family's belongings. He shamelessly glared at me with eyes that seemed to accuse. Come to think of it, Horiki had never suffered any loss in his dealings with me. Horiki's elderly mother brought out 2 bowls of sweet red bean soup on a tray. This is... Horiki, as if he were truly a dutiful son, expressed his gratitude to his mother with an overly polite tone. Thank you, is this sweet red bean soup? How generous! You didn't have to go to such trouble. I have to leave soon for an errand. But no, it would be a shame to waste your special sweet red bean soup. I'll have some. Why don't you have one too? Mother went out of her way to make it. This is delicious. How generous. He seemed genuinely delighted, not merely acting, and ate with great enjoyment. I also tasted it, but it smelled of hot water, and when I ate the mochi, it was something unrecognizable to me. I did not despise their poverty. At that time, I didn't find it unpleasant, and I was touched by the mother's thoughtful gesture. I believe I have a fear of poverty, but not a disdain for it. Through that sweet red bean soup and Horiki's delight in it, I was shown the frugal nature of city dwellers and the reality of Tokyo families, who clearly distinguish between their private and public lives. I felt utterly left behind, foolishly fleeing from human life without distinction, and even abandoned by Haruki, handling the worn lacquered chopsticks. I was overwhelmed with an unbearable sense of desolation, and I just want to record that. Sorry, but I have something to do today. Haruki stood up and said this while putting on his jacket. Excuse me, but I'm truly sorry. At that moment, a female visitor came to see Haruki, and a sudden change occurred in my circumstances as well. Haruki suddenly became lively. Oh, I apologize. I was just about to visit you, but this person suddenly showed up. However, please don't let it bother you. Come in, please. He seemed quite flustered, offering the cushion he had been sitting on by flipping it over, only to snatch it back and flip it again before offering it to the woman. There was only one cushion for guests in the room besides Haruki's own. The woman was thin and tall. She placed the cushion to the side and sat in a corner near the entrance. I listened absent-mindedly to their conversation. The woman seemed to be from a magazine company and appeared to have come to collect an illustration or something she had requested from Haruki. I'm in a hurry. It's ready. It's been ready for a long time. Here it is, please. A telegram arrived. As Haruki read it, his cheerful expression quickly turned grim. Damn! What is this about? It was a telegram from Hirami. Anyway, just go home immediately. I'd like to say I'll escort you, but I don't have the time right now. For someone who's run away from home, you sure look carefree. Where is your home? In Okubo, I replied abruptly. Then it's near the company, isn't it? She was born in Koshu and was 28 years old. She lived in an apartment in Koenji with her 5-year-old daughter. She mentioned it had been 3 years since she was widowed. You seem like someone who has grown up with a lot of hardship. You're very attentive. Poor thing. For the first time, I lived like a lover. After Shizuko, the name of the female reporter, went off to work at a magazine company in Shinjuku. It was just me and a 5-year-old girl named Shigeko quietly keeping house. Until then, while her mother was away, Shigeko seemed to have played in the apartment manager's room. But now that a thoughtful uncle had appeared as a playmate, she seemed quite pleased. For about a week, I lingered there absent-mindedly. A kite was caught on the power lines just outside the apartment window, and though it was battered by the dusty spring wind, it clung stubbornly to the wires as if nodding. Every time I saw it, I would chuckle wryly, blush, and even dream about it, tormented in my sleep. I wish I had some money. How much? A lot. It's true that when the money runs out, so does the connection. Ridiculous. Such an outdated notion. Is that so? But you don't understand. If things continue like this, I might have to run away. Which one of us is truly poor? And who's the one running away? It's amusing, isn't it? I want to earn my own money and buy alcohol, or rather cigarettes with it. I think I'm much better at painting than Haruki. At times like these, what naturally comes to mind are the few self-portraits called ghosts that Takichi painted during middle school. Lost masterpieces. They were lost during one of the moves, but I remember that those paintings were truly exceptional. Even after trying to paint various things, I could never come close to that masterpiece in my memory. And I was always plagued by a dull sense of emptiness, a lingering feeling of loss, a half-finished glass of absinthe. I secretly expressed that irreparable sense of loss in this way. Whenever the topic of painting came up, the image of that half-finished glass of absinthe flickered before my eyes, and I was seized by an impatience to show that painting to someone, to make them believe in my artistic talent. Who knows? You're adorable because you make jokes with such a serious face. It's no joke, it's true. Oh, how I long to show that painting. Burdened by my futile worries, I suddenly changed my mind and gave up. It's a comic. At the very least, I think I'm better at comics than Haruki. Those words, spoken in jest and deception, were ironically taken more seriously. That's right. To be honest, I've been impressed too. The comics you always draw for Shigeko even make me laugh. Why don't you give it a try? I could ask the editor-in-chief at my company. That company published a little-known monthly magazine for children. When women see you, most can't help but want to do something for you. You're always so timid, yet there's something comical about you. Sometimes, when you're deeply depressed alone, that very sight stirs a woman's heart even more. Even when Shizuko flattered me with various compliments, thinking it was precisely the loathsome trait of a male mistress, I only sank deeper into depression, unable to muster any energy, secretly wishing to escape from Shizuko and become independent, preferring money over women. However, despite my efforts, I found myself increasingly reliant on Shizuko, who took care of almost everything, including the aftermath of my running away from home, and as a result, I felt even more compelled to be timid around her. Thanks to Shizuko's arrangements, a meeting with Hirame Haruki And Shizuko was realized, and I completely severed ties with my hometown, deciding to live openly with Shizuko. This too was due to Shizuko's efforts, and unexpectedly, my comics began to earn money, which allowed me to buy alcohol and cigarettes. However, my anxiety and melancholy only grew stronger. I sank to the very bottom of rock bottom, and while drawing the monthly, serialized comic The Adventures of Kinta and Ota for Shizuko's magazine, I would sometimes recall my family home, and the loneliness would overwhelm me, causing my pen to stop and tears to fall as I hung my head. In those times, my only solace was Shigeko. By then, Shigeko had begun to call me Daddy without any hesitation. Daddy, is it true that if you pray, God will give you anything? I found myself wishing to offer that prayer. Ah, grant me a tranquil will. Teach me the essence of humanity. Is it not a sin for people to push each other aside? Bestow upon me the mask of anger. Yeah, that's right. Shiga-chan might be able to get anything, but it might be impossible for Father. I even felt fear towards God. I couldn't believe in God's love and only believed in God's punishment. Faith seemed like merely bowing my head and heading to the place of judgment to receive God's whip. I could believe in the existence of hell, but I just couldn't bring myself to believe in the existence of heaven. Why not? Because I disobeyed my parents' instructions. Is that so? Everyone says Father is a very good person, though. It's because I'm deceiving everyone in this apartment. I know I'm well liked, but I also know how much I actually fear everyone. The more I fear, the more I'm liked, and the more I'm liked, the more fear I feel, and I must distance myself from everyone. Explaining this unfortunate disposition to Shigeko was very difficult. Shiga-chan, what exactly do you want to ask of God? I casually changed the subject. Shigeko longs for her real father. I was startled, and a dizzying sensation swept over me. An enemy. Was I Shigeko's enemy, or was Shigeko mine? In any case, I felt there was another terrifying adult here threatening me. Suddenly, Shigeko seemed like a stranger. An incomprehensible stranger. A stranger full of secrets. I had thought Shigeko was different, yet she too possessed the tail of a cow that suddenly swats and kills a fly. Since then, I found myself having to be cautious even around Shigeko. Lustful demon! Are you there? Horiki had started visiting me again. Despite being the man who had left me so lonely when I ran away from home that day, I still couldn't refuse him and greeted him with a faint smile. Your manga seems to be gaining quite a bit of popularity. Amateurs have a fearless boldness that's hard to compete with. But don't let your guard down. Your drawing skills are still lacking. He even displayed an attitude like that of a master. As I indulged in my usual fantasy, wondering what kind of face he would make if I showed him my ghost drawing, I twisted my body. Don't say that. It'll make me scream. Horiki spoke with increasing pride. Relying solely on the talent for getting by will eventually lead to your downfall. The talent for getting by in life. I could only laugh bitterly at myself. Me, with a talent for getting by. Yet, could it be that my fear of people, my avoidance and deception, is akin to adhering to the wise saying, let sleeping gods lie? Humans do not understand each other at all. They completely misperceive one another, yet convince themselves they are inseparable friends, never realizing the truth. And when the other dies, they weep and read eulogies. Horiki, having been involved in the aftermath of my running away from home, though, surely he only did so reluctantly at Shizuko's request. He behaved as if he were my great benefactor or matchmaker, putting on a serious face to lecture me, visiting me drunk in the middle of the night to stay over, and borrowing 5 yen, always 5 yen, from me. But you should stop your womanizing around here. Any more and society won't tolerate it. What exactly is society? Is it a gathering of people? Where is the substance of this thing called society? I had lived thinking it was something strong, strict, and frightening. But when Horiki said that, I suddenly thought, isn't society you? The words almost slipped off my tongue, but I held them back, not wanting to anger Horiki. That's something society won't allow. Isn't it you who won't allow it? If you do such a thing, you'll suffer terribly at the hands of society. Isn't it you I'm talking about? Soon to be forgotten by the world. Isn't it you, not the world, who will bury it? Words like, recognize your own fearfulness, suspicion, malice. The cunning of an old fox and the nature of a witch flitted through my mind. But I simply wiped the sweat from my face with a handkerchief. Cold sweat, I said, and merely laughed. However, from that moment on, I began to believe that the world is nothing but a collection of individuals. And after I started to think that the world might be a collection of individuals, I found myself able to act with a bit more of my own will than before. To borrow Shizuko's words, I became a little more selfish and less fearful. To borrow Hariki's words, I became strangely stingy. And to borrow Shigeko's words, I stopped doting on Shigeko as much. Silent and without laughter, day after day, while taking care of Shigeko, I drew serialized comics with titles that even I couldn't understand. Like The Adventures of Kinta and Ota, The Easygoing Father, a derivative of The Easygoing Monk, and The Impatient Pinchan. These were drawn in response to orders from various publishers. And orders began to come in little by little from places other than Shizuko's company. However, all of them were from even more vulgar, so-called third-rate publishers than Shizuko's company. I was truly in a gloomy mood, sluggishly, as my drawing speed was very slow. And now I was drawing only because I wanted money for alcohol. Then, when Shizuko returned from work, I would slip out and head to the stalls or stand bars near Koenji Station to drink cheap and strong liquor. And become a bit cheerful, return to the apartment. The more I look at you, the stranger your face seems. The face of the easygoing monk was actually inspired by your sleeping face. Your sleeping face looks quite aged, too. It looks like that of a 40-year-old man. It's your fault. It was swept away. The flow of water and the human body are alike. Why are you brooding by the riverbank? Don't make a fuss. Go to sleep quickly. Or would you like some rice? Calm and seemingly indifferent. I'll drink if it's sake. The flow of water and human fate, you see. The flow of people, no, the flow of water and the fate of water, you see. Humming a song, having Shizuko help me undress, pressing my forehead against her chest and falling asleep, that was my daily routine. And the next day, repeating the same thing, I simply followed the unchanged habits of yesterday. In other words, as long as I avoided rough, grand pleasures, naturally great sorrows wouldn't come either. The obstructive stones blocking the path. The toad takes a roundabout path. When I discovered a verse by Guy Charles Cross, translated by Bin Weda, my face flushed as if it were on fire. A toad. That is me. It doesn't matter whether society accepts it or not. It doesn't matter whether I am buried or not. I'm an animal inferior to dogs and cats. A toad, just moving sluggishly. My drinking gradually increased. I went out drinking not only near Koenji Station, but also in Shinjuku and Ginza, sometimes even staying out overnight. I behaved like a ruffian in bars, kissing indiscriminately, just to avoid following custom. In other words, I became an even more dissolute and vulgar drinker than before that tragic love, suicide. To the point where I was so strapped for cash that I took Shizu's clothes to pawn them. More than a year had passed since I came here and smirked at that torn kite. In the season of the cherry blossom leaves, I secretly took Shizu's obi and undergarments to the pawn shop again. Made some money, drank in Ginza, and stayed out for 2 consecutive nights. On the third night, feeling awkward, I unconsciously tiptoed to Shizu's apartment door, where I overheard a conversation between Shizu and Shigeko. Why do you drink? Your father doesn't drink because he likes it. He's a very good person, so... Do good people drink? Not exactly, but... Father will surely be surprised. He might not like it. Look, it's jumping out of the box. It's like a restless little creature. Indeed. Shizuko's low, genuinely happy laughter echoed. When I slightly opened the door to peek inside, there was a little white rabbit. It hopped around the room, and the parent and child chased after it. These people are happy. I, a fool, will eventually come between them and ruin everything. Humble happiness, a good parent and child. Happiness, oh, if God would listen to the prayers of someone like me. Just once in a lifetime I would pray. I felt like kneeling there and clasping my hands in prayer. I quietly closed the door, headed back to Ginza, and never returned to that apartment again. And then, on the second floor of a stand bar near Kiyobashi, I found myself once again lying down like a man's mistress. I felt as though I was beginning to understand the world a little. It is a conflict between individuals, a temporary struggle, and all that matters is winning in that moment. Humans never completely submit to others, and even slaves retaliate in their own way. Therefore, the only way for humans to survive is to rely on one-on-one battles in the moment. Even if it seems like they are upholding a grand cause, the goal of their efforts is always individual, moving from one person to another. The difficulty of the world is the difficulty of the individual, and the vast ocean is not society, but the individual. I felt slightly liberated from the fear of this illusory ocean of society, and I no longer worried endlessly as I did before. In a way, I learned to act a bit more boldly according to the immediate needs before me. After leaving the apartment in Koenji, I informed the madam at the stand bar in Kyobashi. I've broken up. That was all I said, and it sufficed. In other words, the single match was decided, And from that night, I boldly began staying on the second floor of her house. However, the supposedly terrifying society did not harm me in any way, nor did I offer any explanations to society. As long as the madam was willing, everything went smoothly. In that establishment, I seemed like a customer, a proprietor, an errand boy, and a relative all at once. And although I must have appeared quite mysterious from the outside, society did not suspect a thing. The regulars at the bar called me Hachan, and treated me with great kindness, offering me drinks. Gradually, I became less wary of the world. I began to think that the world was not such a frightening place. In other words, my previous fears were akin to being threatened by scientific superstitions, such as the belief that there are hundreds of thousands of whooping cough bacteria in the spring breeze. Hundreds of thousands of bacteria that blind you in public baths, hundreds of thousands of baldness bacteria in barbershops, scabies mites swarming on train straps, or that undercooked sashimi and beef or pork always harbor tapeworm larvae and fluke eggs. Or that walking barefoot could allow tiny glass shards to enter through the soles of your feet, travel through your body, and pierce your eyeballs, causing blindness. Indeed, it may be scientifically accurate that hundreds of thousands of bacteria float, swim, and wriggle around. However, I came to understand that if I completely ignored their existence, they became irrelevant to me and were nothing more than scientific ghosts that vanished instantly. When there are 3 grains of leftover rice in a lunchbox, if 10 million people leave 3 grains each day, it amounts to wasting several bales of rice. Or, if 10 million people save 1 piece of tissue paper a day, how much pulp would be saved? Such scientific statistics used to terrify me, and every time I left even a single grain of rice or blew my nose, I was troubled by the illusion that I was wasting mountains of rice or pulp, feeling a dark sense of committing a grave sin. However, that was precisely the lie of science, the lie of statistics, the lie of mathematics. The 3 grains of rice cannot be gathered. And even as an applied problem of multiplication or division, it is a truly primitive and unintelligent theme. It's as foolish as calculating how often a person would miss stepping over the hole in a dark, unlit toilet, or how many passengers would drop their feet into the gap between the train door and the platform edge. While it might seem possible, I've never heard of anyone getting injured by failing to step over a toilet hole. I was taught such hypotheses as scientific facts, accepted them as reality, and feared them. I found myself fondly laughing at my past self, who was afraid until yesterday, as I gradually came to understand the true nature of the world. That being said, I still found humans quite frightening, and when meeting customers at the bar, I couldn't manage without first downing a glass of alcohol. It was like the thrill of facing something scary. Every night, I would go to the bar and, like a child who tightly grips a small animal they are secretly afraid of, I would, under the influence of alcohol, clumsily discuss art theories with the customers. A manga artist. But I am an unknown manga artist without great joys or great sorrows. Even though I am anxious for a wild great joy, even if it means a great sorrow might follow, my current enjoyment is limited to chatting idly with customers and drinking their alcohol. Since arriving in Kyobashi, I've been leading this mundane life for nearly a year. My comics have started appearing not only in children's magazines, but also in the coarse and obscene publications sold at train stations. Using the absurd pen name Joshi Ikuta, a pun on passionate death alive, I drew vulgar nude illustrations, often incorporating verses from the Rubaiyat. "Stop with the pointless prayers," I said. "Brush away anything that stirs tears. Come on, let's have a drink. Let's remember only the good times. Forget about needless worries. Those who instill anxiety and fear in others tremble at the great sins they have committed and brace themselves for the vengeance of the dead, constantly turning thoughts over in their minds. Last night, filled with drink, my heart overflowed with joy. This morning, when I awoke, everything felt utterly desolate. I wonder how, in just one night, the atmosphere could have changed so drastically. Please stop thinking it's a curse. Like the distant sound of drums echoing, it somehow fills me with unease. I can't bear the thought of every little thing, even passing gas, being counted as a sin. Is justice truly meant to be the guiding principle of life? If so, then on the blood-stained battlefield, or at the tip of an assassin's blade. What kind of justice dwells within? Where does the guiding principle reside? What light of wisdom shines? This world is both beautiful and terrifying. Frail humans are burdened with loads they cannot bear, and have seeds of uncontrollable desires planted within them. only to be cursed with notions of good, evil, sin, and punishment. Helpless, they are left only to bewilderment. They are given neither the power nor the will to suppress or shatter. So where and how have they wandered? What do we critique, examine, and come to understand anew? Empty dreams and non-existent illusions. Indeed, if you forget about the sake, all thoughts seem foolish. How about it? Gaze upon this boundless sky. There's a point floating in the middle, isn't there? Who can comprehend why this earth rotates? Rotation, revolution, inversion, it all occurs naturally. Everywhere one senses the supreme power, in every nation and among every people. Discovering the same humanity. It seems I am regarded as a heretic. Everyone is misinterpreting the sacred scriptures. Otherwise, they possess neither common sense nor wisdom. To renounce the pleasures of the flesh. To abstain from drinking. That's fine, Mustafa. I utterly detest such things. However, at that time there was a young woman who urged me to quit drinking. It's not right to be drunk every day from noon. She was a 17 or 18-year-old girl from a small tobacco shop across from the bar. Her name was Yoshi-chan, a fair-skinned girl with a charming smile. Every time I went to buy cigarettes, she would advise me with a grin. Why is it wrong? What's so bad about it? Drink all the alcohol you have and human, erase the hatred. It's an old Persian tale, but let's leave it at that. The only thing that brings hope to a heart weary with sorrow is a cup that offers a gentle intoxication. You know? Do you understand? I don't understand. You rascal. I'll give you a kiss. Please do. Without the slightest hint of shame, she pushed out her lower lip. You fool. Have you no sense of chastity? However, in Yoshi-chan's expression, there was an unmistakable air of pure innocence. On a bitterly cold night after the New Year, I went out, drunk, to buy cigarettes. In front of the tobacco shop, I fell into a manhole and shouted, "Yoshi-chan, help me!" Yoshi-chan pulled me up and tended to the wound on my right arm. At that moment, Yoshi-chan said earnestly, "You've been drinking too much?" Without a trace of a smile. I'm not afraid of dying itself, but I absolutely detest getting injured, bleeding, or becoming disabled. So while Yoshi-chan was tending to the wound on my arm, I thought it might be time to cut back on drinking. I'll quit. From tomorrow, not a single drop. Really? I promise I'll quit. If I do, Yoshi-chan, will you marry me? However, the talk of marriage was merely a jest. Of course. Mochi was short for of course. At that time, various abbreviations like MOBO and MOGA were in vogue. All right, let's make a promise. I'll definitely quit. Despite saying that, the next day, I ended up drinking from noon after all. In the evening, I staggered outside and stood in front of Yoshi-chan's shop. Yoshi-chan, I'm sorry. I drank. Oh, stop it. Pretending to be drunk like that. I was taken aback. It felt as if the intoxication had completely dissipated. No, it's true. I really did drink. I'm not pretending to be drunk. Don't tease me. You're being cruel. There was no doubt in their mind. You can tell just by looking, can't you? I started drinking again from noon today. Please forgive me. You're quite the actor. It's not an act, you fool. I'll kiss you. Go ahead. No, I'm not worthy. I must give up on marrying you. Look at my face. It's red, isn't it? I drank. That's because the sunset is shining on you. It's no use trying to fool me. We promised yesterday. You weren't supposed to drink. We made a pinky promise. Saying you drank is a lie, a lie, a lie. Seeing Yoshi-chan's pale face smiling in the dimly lit shop, I felt that purity untouched by corruption is truly precious. Until then, I had never been with a virgin younger than myself. I decided to marry. No matter what great sorrow might follow, I did not care. Just once in my life. I wanted to experience a joy so immense it was almost wild. I had thought the beauty of virginity was nothing more than the sweet, sentimental illusion of foolish poets. But I realized it truly existed in this world. I resolved then and there that once we were married and spring arrived, we would go see the Aoba Falls by bicycle. And I had no hesitation in stealing that flower in what one might call a single, decisive battle. And so we eventually married. However, the joy that came from it was not necessarily great. The sorrow that followed was so immense that calling it tremendous would not suffice, a truly beyond imagination. To me, the world remained an unfathomably terrifying place. It was by no means a simple matter where everything could be decided by such a straightforward contest. I apologize. But I cannot perform a translation as the specified text has not been provided. If you provide the classical text that needs translation, I will translate it into modern language. Horiki and I. If associating with each other while mutually despising one another and degrading oneself in the process is what the world calls friendship, then my relationship with Horiki was Indeed, friendship. I relied on the kindness of the madam at the Kiyobashi stand bar. It may be a slightly unusual way to put it, but in my experience, at least in the relationships between men and women in the city, women possess such kindness more abundantly than men. Men were usually timid, boastful, and stingy, and was able to make Yoshiko, the tobacconist, my common-law wife. We rented a room in a small 2-story wooden apartment near Tsukiji and the Sumida River, lived together, quit drinking, and gradually devoted myself to my budding career in manga. After dinner, we would go out to watch movies, stop by a cafe on the way back, or buy potted flowers. More than that, I enjoyed listening to the words and watching the actions of this little bride, who trusted me wholeheartedly. And I began to harbor the sweet thought that perhaps I might eventually become human-like and avoid a miserable death, when Hariki appeared before me once again. "Hey, lustful demon. Oh, you've got a bit more sense in your face now, haven't you? Today I'm a messenger from Miss Quenji." As he began to speak, he suddenly lowered his voice, gesturing with his chin towards Yoshiko, who was preparing tea in the kitchen, and asked, "Is everything all right?" "Don't worry. It's fine no matter what you say," I replied calmly. In truth, Yoshiko could be considered a genius of trust. Despite her relationships, such as with the madam of the bar in Kiyobashi, she never doubted my connection with Tsuneko. Even when I told her about the incident I caused in Kamakura, this wasn't because I was particularly good at lying. Sometimes I even spoke frankly, yet to Yoshiko, everything seemed to sound like a joke. "As always, you're carrying a burden." "No, it's nothing serious. But there's a message asking you to visit Quenji once in a while." Just when you've almost forgotten, a monstrous bird flaps its wings and arrives, piercing the wounds of memory with its beak. Suddenly, the memories of past shame and guilt vividly unfold before your eyes, and the fear is so overwhelming that you can't remain seated, making you want to scream. "Shall we drink?" Translating Tozi Fen into modern language, it becomes Tozi Fen Hasi Suta, meaning I thought to myself, "Yoshi, Yoshi," Hariki said. Hariki and I looked alike. Sometimes it felt as if we were identical people. Of course, this was only when we wandered around drinking cheap liquor, but whenever we faced each other, we would instantly transform into dogs of the same shape and fur, running around in the falling snow. Since that day, we began to rekindle our old friendship and started going together to that small bar in Kiyobashi. Eventually, the two of us, drunk, even began visiting and staying over at Shizuko's apartment in Koenji. I cannot forget. It was a sultry summer night. Hariki came to my apartment in Tsukiji in the evening, wearing a worn-out yukata, and said he had to pawn his summer clothes for something urgent today. If his elderly mother found out, it would be very inconvenient. So he wanted to redeem them immediately and asked me to lend him money. Unfortunately, I had no money either, so as usual, I asked Yoshiko, took her clothes to the pawn shop to get money, and lent it to Hariki. There was still a little left over, so I had Yoshiko buy shochu with it, and we went to the rooftop of the apartment to hold a very shabby summer cooling party, feeling the faint, foul-smelling breeze occasionally blowing from the Sumida River. At that time, we began a game of categorizing nouns as either comedic or tragic. This was a game I invented, based on the notion that just as nouns can be classified as masculine, feminine, or neuter, they should also be classified as comedic or tragic. For instance, steamships and trains are tragic nouns, while trams and buses are comedic nouns. In my view, anyone who doesn't understand why has no right to speak about art. A playwright who mixes even one tragic noun into a comedy is disqualified, and the same applies to tragedy, or so the discussion went. How about it? Got any cigarettes? I ask. Tiger, short for tragedy. Hariki immediately responds. Do you have any medicine? Powdered medicine? Or pills? I'm sorry, but the content of that text is unclear. If you provide specific sentences or paragraphs, I will translate them into modern language. Tiger? Is that so? There's hormone injections too, you know. No, it's definitely a tiger. First of all, it has stripes, and you are indeed a magnificent tiger. Aren't you? Well, let's concede for now. But, you know, medicine and doctors are actually quite comedic. And what about death? It's a comedy. Both pastors and monks are the same. It's a great success. So, life is a tiger, isn't it? No, that's a comedy too. No, if that's the case, everything would end up being a comedy. Then, let me ask you one more thing. What about cartoonists? Surely you can't call that a comedy, can you? It's a tiger, a noun of great tragedy. What, you're the great tiger yourself. It might seem like a poor pun, But we prided ourselves on this game as something exceptionally clever, never before seen in the salons of the world. Additionally, I invented another game similar to this at the time. It was a game of guessing antonyms. The antonym of black is white, but the antonym of white is red. The antonym of red is black. What is the flower's counterpart? When I asked, Hariki twisted his mouth in thought. Well, there was a restaurant called Kagetsu, so it's the moon. No, that's not a counterpart. It's a synonym. Stars and violets are synonyms, aren't they? Not counterparts. I got it, it's a bee. A bee? On a peony, an ant? What? That's a painting subject. Don't try to fool me. I got it! Clouds over flowers. It's clouds over the moon, isn't it? Yes. The wind to the flower. It's the wind. The opposite of a flower is the wind. That's not good. Isn't that a line from a Naniwa-bushi ballad? It'll be too obvious. No, it's from the biwa. That's even worse. For the opposite of a flower, you should name something that is the least flower-like in this world. So then, wait a minute, what is it, a woman? By the way, what's a synonym for woman? Organs. You really don't understand poetry, do you? Then what's the opposite of organs? Milk. That's quite clever. Now one more in that vein. Shame. The opposite of honor. Shameless, aren't you? The trendy manga artist Joshi Ikuta. What about Horiguchi Masao? From this point, the two of them gradually stopped laughing and began to feel the peculiar, gloomy mood of a shochu-induced stupor, as if shards of glass were lodged in their minds. Don't be so cheeky. I've never suffered the disgrace of being bound like you have. I was taken aback. Deep down, I realized that Horiguchi never truly regarded me as a decent human being. He saw me merely as a dying, shameless, foolish monster, a living corpse, so to speak, and only used me for his own pleasure wherever he could. It was nothing more than a friendship of convenience. Although this realization didn't sit well with me, I also thought it was only natural for Horiguchi to see me that way. I had been a child unworthy of being called human from the start, and perhaps it was only natural that even Horiguchi would hold me in contempt. Sin. What would be the opposite of sin? That's a tough one, I said, trying to maintain a nonchalant expression. The law, Horiguchi answered calmly, and I looked at his face again. Under the flickering red light of a nearby building's neon sign, Horiguchi's face seemed to possess the dignity of a fearsome detective. I was utterly astonished. Sin, my friend, isn't something as simple as that. You say the opposite of crime is the law? Perhaps the people of the world think in such simple terms and live their lives, unperturbed. It is where there are no detectives that crime truly writhes. So what is it then, God? You have something of a Christian monk about you. It's unsettling. Well, don't dismiss it so easily. Let's ponder it a bit more together. It's an intriguing theme, isn't it? I feel like a single answer to this theme could reveal everything about a person. No way. The antonym of crime is a good person. A good citizen like me. Let's stop joking. But good is the opposite of evil. It is not the opposite of crime. Is evil different from crime? I think they are different. The concept of good and evil is something created by humans. Words of morality made up by humans at their own convenience. You're annoying. So it must be God after all. God. If you attribute everything to God, you can't go wrong. I'm hungry. Yoshiko is boiling broad beans downstairs right now. Wonderful. They're my favorite. He clasped his hands behind his head and reclined on his back. You seem entirely uninterested in the concept of sin. Of course not, because I'm not a criminal like you. I may fool around, but I don't drive women to their deaths or swindle money from them. Even when a faint but desperate voice inside protested, I didn't cause her death. I didn't take anything. He would immediately correct himself, thinking, no, it's my fault. I couldn't engage in a direct argument no matter what, struggling to suppress the increasingly harsh feelings brought on by the gloomy intoxication of shochu. I spoke almost as if to myself. But being thrown in jail isn't the only sin. If I could understand the opposite of sin, I feel like I could grasp its essence. God, salvation, love, light. But God has Satan as an opposite. Salvation's opposite is suffering. Love has hatred. Light has darkness. Good has evil, sin and prayer. Sin and repentance, sin and confession, sin and... they're all synonyms. What is the antonym of sin? The opposite of sin is honey. It's sweet like honey. I'm hungry. Bring me something to eat. Why don't you get it yourself? A voice of intense anger erupted, perhaps for the first time in my life. All right, then I'll go downstairs and commit a sin with Yoshi-chan. Practical examination is better than debate. The antonym of sin is honey beans, or maybe broad beans. He was so drunk that he could barely form a coherent sentence. Do as you wish. Just go somewhere! Sin and hunger, hunger and broad beans, no, are these synonyms? He rose, spouting gibberish. Crime and punishment. Dostoevsky. That thought briefly flitted through the corner of my mind, startling me. What if Dostoevsky did not see crime and punishment as synonyms, but as antonyms? Crime and punishment, things that absolutely cannot coexist like ice and coal. The murky, blue, decaying pond? The tangled threads deep within Dostoevsky's mind, who saw crime and punishment as antonyms. I was beginning to understand. No, not yet. While such thoughts were swirling like a revolving lantern in my head. Hey! What a surprise, Broadbeans. Come! Haruki's voice and expression had changed. Just now, Haruki had staggered downstairs only to return again. What is it? With an unusual air of tension, the two descended from the rooftop to the second floor, and on the stairs leading further down to his room, Haruki stopped. Look! He whispered and gestured with his finger. The small window above his room was open, allowing him to see inside. The light was still on, and there were two animals present. Feeling dizzy and unsteady, he murmured to himself between labored breaths, "This too is a human form. This too is a human form. There's nothing to be surprised about." And forgetting to assist Yoshiko, he stood frozen on the stairs. Haruki cleared his throat loudly. I ran back up to the rooftop alone, as if fleeing, lay down, and gazed up at the rain-filled summer night sky. The emotion that struck me then was not anger, disgust, or sadness, but an overwhelming fear. It was not the fear of a ghost in a graveyard, but an ancient, unexplainable terror one might feel upon encountering a sacred object draped in white robes in a shrine's cedar forest. My premature graying began that night, and I increasingly lost confidence in everything, increasingly harbored unfathomable doubts about people, and became eternally detached from all expectations, joys, and resonances with the workings of this world. Indeed, it was a decisive event in my life. I felt as if my forehead had been split open, and since then, the wound ached every time I approached any human being. I sympathize, but now you understand a little, don't you? I won't come here again. It's like hell. But forgive Yoshi-chan. After all, you're not such a big deal yourself. Well, I'll be going. Haruki was not so foolish as to linger long in an awkward situation. I got up, drank shochu alone, and then cried out loud. I could cry as much as I wanted, as much as I needed. Before I knew it, Yoshiko was standing behind me, absent-mindedly holding a plate piled high with broad beans. I said I wouldn't do anything, and it's fine. You don't have to say anything. You didn't know how to doubt people. Sit down. Let's eat the beans. We sat side by side and ate beans. Is trust a sin? The man across from me was an uneducated, small-statured merchant in his 30s who would have me draw cartoons and then leave behind a meager amount of money, with an air of self-importance. That merchant never returned, but for some reason, more than any hatred toward him, it was the resentment and anger toward Haruki, who, upon first discovering it, returned to the rooftop without even a loud cough to inform me that would well up in sleepless nights, causing me to groan. There is no forgiving or not forgiving. Yoshiko is a genius of trust. She did not know how to doubt people. However, there was a tragedy because of that. I asked God, is trusting a sin? More than Yoshiko being hurt, it was the betrayal of her trust that, for a long time afterward, became a source of suffering so intense that living was difficult for me. For someone like me, who is servile, timid, constantly watching others' expressions, and whose ability to trust is broken, Yoshiko's pure trust felt as refreshing as a waterfall in the verdant leaves. That turned into yellow filth overnight. Look, from that night, Yoshiko began to be cautious even of my slightest expressions. Hey. When I called out, he flinched, looking troubled about where to direct his gaze. No matter how much I tried to make him laugh with jokes, he became flustered, nervous, and excessively began to use polite language with me. Is pure trust truly the source of sin? I searched for and read several stories of married women who had been violated. However, I found no woman in as miserable a situation as Yoshiko. To begin with, this does not even constitute a story. If there had been even a hint of romantic feelings between that small merchant and Yoshiko, perhaps my feelings might have been somewhat alleviated, but in reality, it was just a single summer night where Yoshiko trusted, and because of that, deep wrinkles were etched on my forehead, my voice became hoarse, gray hairs began to sprout, and Yoshiko was destined to be plagued by anxiety for the rest of her life. In many stories, the focus seemed to be on whether the husband forgives the wife's actions, but, to me, that did not seem to be such a significant issue. I think a husband who has the right to forgive or not is fortunate. If he feels he cannot forgive, He should simply divorce his wife without making a fuss and take a new one. If he cannot do that, then he must forgive and endure. In any case, it seemed to me that the issue could be resolved depending on the husband's feelings. In other words, such an incident is undoubtedly a great shock for a husband. But to me, it seemed merely a shock and not an enduring wave, a problem that could be managed by the husband's rightful anger. However, in our case, the husband had no rights, and the more he pondered it, the more he felt at fault, unable to even voice a complaint, let alone get angry. Moreover, the wife was ensnared by her own rare virtue, an irresistibly endearing innocence and trust that the husband had long admired. Is an innocent heart of trust a sin? Even the sole virtue I relied on became suspect, and I found myself lost, with nothing to depend on but alcohol. My facial expression grew exceedingly base. I drank shochu from morning. My teeth crumbled, and I began drawing almost obscene cartoons. No, let me be clear. From that time, I started copying and illicitly selling erotic prints. I needed money to buy shochu. Seeing Yoshiko, who always averted her eyes and was flustered, I wondered if she, being completely unaware of caution, had not been with that merchant just once, or perhaps with Horiki, or maybe even with someone I didn't know. Doubt bred doubt, and lacking the courage to confront it, I writhed in anxiety and fear, drinking shochu to get drunk, timidly attempting a slightly servile leading question, foolishly rejoicing or despairing inwardly, outwardly jesting excessively, and then subjecting Yoshiko to abominable caresses of hell before falling into a muddy sleep. At the end of that year, I returned home late at night, thoroughly drunk. I craved sugar water, and since Yoshiko seemed to be asleep, I went to the kitchen myself to find the sugar jar. When I opened the lid, there was no sugar inside, but a long, thin black paper box. I picked it up casually, and when I looked at the label on the box, I was aghast. The label had been more than half peeled off with a fingernail, but the part with the Western letters remained, and it clearly read dial. Dial. At that time, I mainly drank shochu and didn't use sleeping pills. But insomnia was like a chronic condition for me, so I was familiar with most sleeping pills. With just one box of this dial, it certainly exceeded the lethal dose. Although the box hadn't been opened yet, it was undoubtedly hidden there with the intention of using it someday. Poor thing, she couldn't read the English letters on the label, so she had peeled off half with her fingernail, thinking it would be okay. You are not at fault. I quietly poured water into a glass, making no sound. Then I slowly opened the box, threw all its contents into my mouth at once, and calmly drank the glass of water. After that, I turned off the light and went to sleep as I was. For 3 days and nights, I was said to have been unconscious as if dead. The doctor judged it as an accident and waited a while before reporting it to the police. When I began to regain consciousness, the first words I supposedly uttered were, "I want to go home." I wasn't sure myself what home referred to. But in any case, I said that and cried terribly. As the fog gradually cleared, I saw a flounder sitting at my bedside with a terribly displeased face. The other day it was the end of the year, and even though we were both dizzyingly busy, if you keep doing this at the end of the year, our lives won't last. Listening to the flounder's story was the madam of a bar in Kyobashi. "Madame," I called out. "What's wrong? Have you come to your senses?" Madame said, as if layering a smile over her face, with tears streaming down my face. "Let me part with Yoshiko." Words that even surprised myself slipped out of my mouth. Madame sat up and let out a faint sigh. Then, I made yet another truly astonishingly ridiculous and absurd blunder that left me at a loss for words. "I'm going to a place where there are no women." Then, the flatfish burst into loud laughter, the madam began to chuckle, and I, with tears streaming down my face, blushed and forced a smile. "Yes, that's better." The flatfish continued to laugh sloppily for a long time. "It's better to go to a place without women. When women are around, things just don't go well. A place without women is a good idea. A place without women." However, this foolish soliloquy of mine later became a grim reality. Yoshiko seemed to believe that I had taken the poison in her place, and she became even more timid around me than before, unable to laugh or speak properly. Seeing her like that made me dislike staying in the apartment, and I ended up going out and drinking cheap liquor as usual. However, since the incident with the GR, my body suddenly became emaciated. My limbs grew weary, and I became negligent in my manga work. The money that the flatfish left as a get-well gift, he claimed it was a token, from Shibuya, offering it as if it were his own, but it seemed to be money from his brothers back home. By then, I had vaguely started to see through the flatfish's act, so I pretended not to notice and sincerely thanked him for the money. Though I couldn't quite understand why they went through such complicated measures, allowed me to take a solo trip to the hot springs in southern Izu. However, I wasn't the type to leisurely tour hot springs, and thinking of Yoshiko filled me with endless loneliness. I couldn't find peace gazing at the mountains from my room at the inn, and without changing into a yukata or soaking in the baths, I dashed outside, stumbled into a shabby tea house, drank shochu until I was drenched, worsened my health, and returned to Tokyo. It was a night when heavy snow fell in Tokyo. I was drunk, walking through the back streets of Ginza, softly singing over and over, "Here is hundreds of miles from home. Here is hundreds of miles from home." As I walked, kicking aside the accumulating snow with my shoes, I suddenly vomited. It was my first time coughing up blood. On the snow, it formed something like a large Japanese flag. I crouched for a while, then scooped up the clean snow with both hands, washed my face, and cried, "Where is this narrow path? Where is this narrow path?" The plaintive song of a young girl faintly reaches my ears, like a distant hallucination. Misery. In this world, there are many unfortunate people, or rather, it might not be an exaggeration to say that everyone is unfortunate. However, the misfortunes of these people can be openly protested against in what is called society. And society easily understands and sympathizes with their protests. But my own misfortune stems entirely from my own sins, leaving no one to protest to. And if I even attempt to utter a word of protest, society would surely be astonished at my audacity. Am I, in fact, what is commonly called a selfish person? Or conversely, am I too timid? I do not understand myself, but in any case, being a massive sin, I only continue to become more and more miserable, with no concrete measures to prevent it. I stood up, thinking I should at least get some suitable medicine, and entered a nearby pharmacy. The moment I met the eyes of the lady there, she lifted her head and widened her eyes as if caught in a flash, standing stock still. However, in her widened eyes, there was no sign of surprise or disgust, but rather a look that seemed almost to seek salvation, a look of yearning. Ah, this person must also be unfortunate. For unfortunate people are sensitive to the misfortunes of others, I thought, when I suddenly noticed that the lady was standing unsteadily with a crutch. Suppressing the urge to rush over, tears welled up as I continued to meet her gaze. Then, from her large eyes, tears began to overflow as well. After that, without saying a word, I left the pharmacy and staggered back to my apartment. Yoshiko made me some salt water to drink, and I lay down silently. The next day, I pretended to have a cold and stayed in bed all day. However, by nightfall, I became unbearably anxious about my secret hemoptysis, so I got up and went to that pharmacy. This time, with a smile, I confessed my physical condition honestly to the lady and sought her advice. "You must stop drinking. We had a relationship almost like that of a family. I might be suffering from alcohol dependence. Even now, I still want to drink." That's not good. My husband, despite being a doctor, used to say he was killing germs with alcohol and became a heavy drinker, shortening his own life. I'm so anxious. I'm terrified, and it's just impossible for me. I'll give you some medicine, but please stop drinking. The lady, a widow with a son who is attending a medical university in Chiba or somewhere, and who soon contracted the same illness as his father and is currently on leave from school and hospitalized. At home, her father-in-law, who has suffered a stroke, is bedridden, and the lady herself has been unable to move one leg at all since she had polio, at the age of 5. Tapped her crutch as she gathered various medicines for me, from different shelves and drawers. This is a blood tonic. This is a vitamin injection. Use this syringe. These are calcium tablets, diastase, to prevent stomach upset. What could this be? As she lovingly explained about 5 or 6 types of medicines, I found the devotion of this unfortunate wife to be overwhelming. Finally, she quickly wrapped a small box in paper, saying, "This is the medicine for when you absolutely can't resist the urge to drink." It was a morphine injection. The wife said, "It's less harmful than alcohol," and I believed her. At that time, I had started to feel that the intoxication from alcohol was unpleasantly dirty, and with the joy of finally escaping the demon of alcohol, I injected the morphine into my arm without hesitation. All anxiety, impatience, and shame vanished, and I became extremely cheerful and talkative. After the injection, I forgot about my physical weakness and threw myself into my comic work, coming up with such bizarre ideas that I would burst out laughing as I drew. What started as 1 shot a day became 2, then 4, and by that time, I couldn't work without it. "You mustn't do this. If you become addicted, it will be terrible. When the pharmacist's wife said this, I felt as if I had already become quite an addict. I am truly susceptible to people's suggestions. Even if told not to spend this money when someone says, "It's just like you," I get a strange illusion that not spending it would be wrong. As if I would be betraying expectations, and I inevitably end up spending the money immediately. Because of the anxiety about addiction, I ended up seeking more of the drug. Please, just one more box. I promise I'll pay at the end of the month. The bill can be settled any time. But dealing with the police is quite bothersome, you know. There always seems to be a murky, dark, and suspicious shadow lingering around me. Can't you somehow cover for me, ma'am? I'll give you a kiss. The lady blushed. I continued the conversation further. Without the medicine, I can't get any work done. For me, it's like a tonic. In that case, wouldn't a hormone injection be better? Don't make fun of me. Without either alcohol or that medicine, I can't work. Alcohol is a no-go. Isn't that right? Ever since I started using that medicine, I haven't had a drop of alcohol. Thanks to that, I'm feeling great. I don't intend to keep drawing lousy comics forever. From now on, I'll quit drinking, get my health back, study, and become a great artist. This is an important time for me. So please, may I give you a kiss? The wife burst into laughter. Oh dear, you'll get hooked, you know. Saying this, she made the sound of her crutches tapping as she took the chemical from the shelf. I can't give you a whole box. You'll use it up right away. Just half, okay? You're stingy. But I guess there's no choice. Returning home, he immediately gives himself an injection. Doesn't it hurt? Yoshiko timidly asks herself. Of course it hurts. But to improve work efficiency, I have to do this even if I don't like it. Haven't I been full of energy lately? Now let's get to work. Work, he exclaims excitedly. There were times when I knocked on the pharmacy door in the dead of night. I embraced the wife who emerged in her nightclothes, tapping her crutches, and kissed her, feigning tears. The wife silently handed me a box. By the time I realized that the drugs were as vile and filthy as, if not worse than shochu, I was already a complete addict. It was truly the height of shamelessness. Just to get my hands on those drugs, I began copying erotic prints again, and even formed a literally ugly relationship with the pharmacist's disabled wife. I want to die, I might as well die. There's no turning back now. No matter what I do, nothing goes right. It only adds to my shame. Going to Aoba Falls by bicycle is beyond my reach. It's just that filthy sins pile upon wretched sins, and the anguish grows more intense. I want to die, I must die. Living is the source of my sins, I thought desperately. Yet in the end, I was merely shuttling back and forth between the apartment and the pharmacy in a half-crazed state. No matter how much I worked, the amount of drugs I used increased, and my debt for the medicine reached a terrifying sum. When the wife saw my face, tears welled up in her eyes, and I too shed tears. Hell. As a last resort to escape this hell, with a determination akin to clinging to God, I decided to write a long letter to my father back home, confessing everything about my situation, though I couldn't bring myself to write about the women. However, the result was even worse, and no matter how long I waited, there was no reply. As a result, driven by anxiety and impatience, I ended up increasing my drug intake. On the afternoon of the day, I secretly resolved to inject 10 doses at once and then jump into the river. Hiram appeared with Hariki, as if sensing my intentions with a devilish intuition. I heard you coughed up blood. Hariki sat cross-legged before me, smiling with a kindness I had never seen before. That gentle smile was so precious and delightful that I instinctively turned my face away and wept. With that single gentle smile of his, I was utterly defeated, and something within my heart came to an end. I was placed in a car. In any case, you must be hospitalized. Leave the rest to us, Hiram suggested in a solemn tone. His voice was so calm that one might call it benevolent, like someone devoid of will or judgment. I simply sobbed and obediently followed their words. Including Yoshiko, the four of us were rocked in the car for quite a long time, and as it grew dim outside, we arrived at the entrance of a large hospital nestled in the woods. I thought it was a sanatorium. I received an oddly gentle and courteous examination from a young doctor. Then the doctor said, "Well, please take a quiet rest here for a while," she said with a shy smile. And so, Hirame, Hariki, and Yoshiko decided to leave me alone and return. However, Yoshiko handed me a furoshiki bundle containing a change of clothes, and then silently offered me a syringe and the remaining medicine from her OB. Did she still think it was a tonic? No, I don't need it anymore. It was indeed a rare occurrence. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was the only time in my life that I refused something when it was offered. My misfortune was the misfortune of someone who lacked the ability to refuse. I was terrified that by refusing, an irreparable, stark crack would form in both the other person's heart and my own. However, at that moment, I naturally refused the morphine I had been half-madly seeking. Was I struck by Yoshiko's so-called divine ignorance? Perhaps at that moment I was no longer an addict. However, shortly thereafter, I was guided by the young doctor with the shy smile into a ward, and the door was locked with a clank. It was a mental hospital. My foolish ramblings about going to a place without women, uttered when I drank that ZR, had come true in a strange way. That ward was filled only with male lunatics, and the attendants were all male, with not a single woman present. Now I have become not just a criminal but a madman. No, I am certainly not insane. Not for a single moment have I ever been mad. However, they say that madmen often claim such things about themselves. In other words, those who are confined in this hospital are considered mad, while those who are not are deemed sane. I ask God, is non-resistance a sin? Struck by Hariki's mysterious and beautiful smile, I wept. Forgot all judgment and resistance, got into the car, was brought here, and was deemed a madman. Even if I leave this place someday, I will still bear the stigma of being a madman, no, a cripple, branded upon my forehead. No longer human. I am no longer completely human. I came here in early summer, and from the barred iron window, I could see red water lilies blooming in the small pond in the hospital garden. 3 months have passed since then, and cosmos flowers have begun to bloom in the garden. Unexpectedly, my eldest brother from my hometown came to fetch me with a flatfish, informing me that our father had died of a stomach ulcer at the end of last month. He said in his usual earnest and tense tone that they would no longer question my past or burden me with worries about living, and that I need not do anything, but instead, despite any lingering attachments, I should leave Tokyo immediately and begin a convalescent life in the countryside. He assured me that Shibuya had taken care of most of the aftermath of what I had done in Tokyo, so I need not worry about it. I felt as if I could see the mountains and rivers of my hometown before my eyes, and I nodded faintly. Truly a cripple. After learning of my father's death, I became even more spiritless. My father, who was always that nostalgic yet terrifying presence in my heart, was no longer there. It felt as if the vessel of my anguish had been emptied. It even seemed that the unbearable weight of my vessel of anguish was due to my father. It was as if the tension had been released. I lost even the ability to suffer. My eldest brother fulfilled his promise to me precisely. He bought an old thatched roof house on the outskirts of a warm seaside hot spring village, unusually warm for Tohoku, located 4 or 5 hours south by train from the town where I was born and raised. The house, with 5 rooms, was quite old, with peeling walls and pillars eaten by insects almost beyond repair, and he provided me with a single maid, a terribly ugly woman with shocking red hair, nearing 60, 3 years and a little more past, during which time I endured several peculiar confrontations with the old maid, named Tetsu, sometimes resembling marital quarrels. My chest ailment fluctuated between improvement and relapse, causing weight loss and gain and the appearance of bloody sputum. Just yesterday, I asked Tetsu to buy some calmatin, and she went to the village pharmacy. She returned with a box of calmatin that was shaped differently from the usual one, but I paid it no mind. Before bed, I took 10 tablets, yet felt no drowsiness. Puzzled, I soon felt a strange sensation in my stomach and hurried to the lavatory, where I experienced severe diarrhea, needing to return 3 more times in quick succession. Unable to quell my suspicion, I examined the medicine box closely, only to find it was a laxative called Henomotin. Lying on my back with a hot water bottle on my stomach, I considered scolding Tetsu. This isn't calmatin. It's called Henomotin. As I began to speak, I couldn't help but laugh softly. Invalid seems to be a rather comical name. I had intended to sleep, but ended up taking a laxative, which turned out to be named Henomotin. At present, I have neither happiness nor unhappiness. Simply everything passes by. In the world of so-called humans, where I have lived amidst cries of agony, the only thing that seemed true was just that. Simply all things pass by. I will turn 27 this year. However, due to a significant increase in gray hair, many people perceive me as being over 40. I'm sorry, but it seems there is no specific text provided for translation. If you could provide the classical text that requires translation, I would be happy to translate it into modern language. Afterward. I do not personally know the madman who wrote this memoir. However, I am somewhat acquainted with the woman who seems to be the madam of the stand. Bar in Kyobashi mentioned in this memoir. She was petite, with a rather poor complexion, narrow slanted eyes, and a high nose, giving off a more masculine impression than that of a beautiful woman. It seems this memoir mainly depicts the scenery of Tokyo around the years Showa, 5 to 7. But I visited that stand bar in Kyobashi 2 or 3 times with a friend, drinking highballs around Showa 10, when Japan's military was beginning to act openly. Therefore, I never had the chance to meet the man who wrote this memoir. This February, I visited a friend who had evacuated to Funabashi City in Chiba Prefecture. This friend was a classmate from my university days and is now a lecturer at a women's university. In fact, I had asked this friend to help arrange a marriage for a relative of mine, so this visit also served that purpose. Additionally, I wanted to obtain fresh seafood to feed my family, so I set off for Funabashi City with a backpack. Funabashi City was a fairly large town facing a muddy sea. Even when I gave the address of my friend's new home to the locals, it was hard to find. In addition to the cold, my shoulders began to ache from carrying the backpack. So I was drawn by the sound of a violin and pushed open the door of a cafe. Recognizing the madam there, I asked her, and indeed, she was the madam from that small bar in Kyobashi 10 years ago. The madam seemed to remember me immediately as well, and we both exaggeratedly expressed our surprise and laughed together. Then, as often happens in such situations, we boastfully shared our experiences of being burned out by air raids, even though no one asked. You haven't changed at all. No, I'm already an old woman. My body is falling apart. You're the one who looks young. Not at all. I already have 3 children. Today, I'm out shopping for them. After exchanging the usual greetings of people meeting after a long time, we inquired about the well-being of mutual acquaintances. Then, suddenly, the madam changed her tone and asked, "Did you know Ha-chan?" When I replied, "I don't," the madam went to the back and brought out 3 notebooks and 3 photographs, handing them to me. "Perhaps they might serve as material for a novel," he said. I'm not good at writing on topics assigned by others, so I considered declining right away. However, I was intrigued by the photographs. I mentioned their peculiarity in the preface and decided to take the notebook for the time being. Planning to stop by again on my way back, I asked, "Do you know the house of Mr. What, who teaches at the Women's University? At such and such address?" It turned out we were both newcomers to the area and knew each other. Apparently, he also visits this cafe occasionally. It was just around the corner. That night, I shared a few drinks with a friend and decided to stay over. Without sleeping a wink until morning, I immersed myself in reading the notebook. The memoirs written in it are old stories, but they are sure to captivate modern readers as well. It seemed more meaningful to have it published by some magazine as it is, rather than me clumsily editing it. The seafood souvenirs for the children were just dried fish. I slung my backpack over my shoulder, left my friend's house, and stopped by the cafe in question. "Thank you for yesterday. By the way," I immediately broached the subject. "Could you lend me this notebook for a while?" "Yes, of course." "Is this person still alive?" "I really don't know." About 10 years ago, a package containing a notebook and some photographs was sent to the shop in Kyobashi. Although it must have been from Ha-chan, there was no address or name on it. During the air raids, it somehow survived among other things. And I only recently read through it all for the first time, but... Did you cry? No, rather than crying, it's hopeless, isn't it? Once a person ends up like that, there's no hope. If it's been 10 years since then, they might have already passed away. Perhaps they sent it as a token of gratitude to you. There seem to be some parts that are somewhat exaggerated, but it appears you also suffered quite a bit. If all of this were true, and if I were a friend of this person, I might have wanted to take them to a mental hospital. It's their father who's to blame. They said this casually. The Ha-chan we knew was very honest, considerate. And if only they hadn't drunk, no. Even when they did, they were as good as a godly child.